A specter is haunting the world. It wears many masks, speaks in many tongues, but its voice is unmistakable. The guttural growl of authoritarianism. From the heart of Europe to the shores of America, far-right movements are gaining ground. They promise stability, order, a return to a mythical past. But their true agenda is power, raw, unchecked, and absolute. This is not a drill, folks. This is a five-alarm fire, and democracy is trapped inside. Let's be clear. America's flirtation with dictators is not new. This isn't a Tinder date gone wrong. It's a long-term committed relationship. From Kaiser Wilhelm to Mussolini, from Pinochet to Putin, the American right has a soft spot for strongmen. They see in these iron-fisted rulers a reflection of their own yearning for a simpler time, a time when men were men, women knew their place, and minorities, well, let's just say diversity wasn't exactly celebrated. And then came Trump, the man who looked at the Constitution and saw a to-do list of things to ignore. He praised dictators, cozied up to autocrats, and treated democratic norms like suggestions from a waiter he wasn't planning on tipping. He didn't just normalize authoritarianism, he weaponized it. He made it okay to be openly hostile to democracy. And the GOP? They stood by and watched, their silence speaking volumes. Now we have J.D. Vance, the poster boy for the late Republic movement. This isn't just some fringe group of internet trolls, folks. These guys are playing chess while the rest of us are still setting up checkers. They believe democracy is broken, and their solution is to hit the reset button, hard. They long for a Caesar, a strong man who will sweep away the old order and usher in a new era. And guess what? They think Vance is their guy. Section 5. The Seduction of Power. Why Strongmen Appeal to the American Right. So why are so many Americans drawn to these authoritarian figures? Simple fear. They're afraid of change, afraid of the future, afraid of anyone who doesn't look, think, or pray like them. Strongmen offer them a seductive promise, a return to a mythical past where everything was simpler, whiter, and supposedly greater. They promise to crush the other, to restore order, to make America, well, you know the rest. Section 6. Democracy on the Precipice. Conservative support for dictators and the erosion of freedom. But here's the thing about authoritarianism. It never stops with the other. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Section 7, the nightmare scenario, a second Trump term and the unraveling of America. Imagine, if you will, a second Trump term. The guardrails of democracy, already weakened, crumble completely. The Constitution becomes a quaint historical document like the Magna Carta or your Uncle Earl's bowling trophy. The courts are packed with Trump loyalists, rubber stamping his every whim. The free press is silenced. Dissent is met with violence. This isn't hyperbole, folks. This is the logical conclusion of the path we're on. Section 8. Normalizing the unthinkable. The mainstreaming of far-right ideology. What's perhaps most terrifying is how normal this all seems now. We've become desensitized to the outrageous. The unthinkable has become the everyday. We see far-right ideologies creeping into the mainstream disguised as patriotism or common sense. We see it in the demonization of immigrants, the attacks on LGBTQ+ rights, the attempts to whitewash history. This slow creep towards authoritarianism is perhaps the most insidious threat of all. Section 9, History's Echoes, recognizing the warning signs of authoritarianism. But here's the good news. We've seen this movie before. We know how it ends, and we have a chance to change the script. The warning signs are all around us. We just need to open our eyes and see them. We need to listen to the voices of those who are most vulnerable, those who are already feeling the heat. We need to remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires active participation, constant vigilance, and a willingness to fight for what's right. Section 10, the urgency of now, a call to action for democracy and equality. This is a call to action, folks. A call to stand up and be counted. A call to defend the very soul of our nation. We need to channel the spirit of our founding fathers, the courage of our civil rights heroes, the tenacity of generations past who fought and died for the freedoms we hold dear. We need to vote like our lives depend on it, because they do. We need to speak out against injustice, even when it's uncomfortable. We need to organize, mobilize, and resist. Section 11. The future we choose. A world defined by freedom or tyranny. The choice is ours. We can choose the path of fear, division, and authoritarianism. Or we can choose the path of hope, unity, and democracy. We can choose a future where everyone has a seat at the table, where diversity is celebrated, where the government works for the people, not the other way around. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. Let's get to work.